Welcome, viewers, to Aegelis Interviews, where we talk to everyday people doing extraordinary things. Hats off to our guest today. Let's go. Today, I am pleased to introduce to you Bree Moore, who has written Plague King Chronicles. Plague King Chronicles is a Vella you can read on Amazon.com or download to your Kindle. A Vella is a series of episodes released over time that unfold into a story. So far, I've read 6 of the 51 episodes that have been released. Good afternoon, Bree. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us about your work. Walk us through Plague King Chronicles and share with us what the story is about.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me today. The Plague King Chronicles is about an apothecary named Jayce who lives in the realm of Neldor, and she has been trying to find a cure for a plague that's overtaken the land. And the plague has not responded to any typical remedies, and she's gotten herself into a bit of debt and a lot of trouble. So that's how our story opens.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the cover for this, and this looks like it has JC front and center. And can you tell me a little bit about the cover and how this came to be?
Yeah, so I found a graphic designer that I really liked their style, and I asked them to make me an image of Jayce with kind of depicting her plant magic because she has the ability to hear the language of plants when she touches them. So I really wanted the cover of this to show kind of that magic-y plant feel of the story and then have our main character featured.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and that's kind of how the story opens, is the plants communicating with her. And
Yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about how that came to be and what that communication is like?
Yeah, I can. So, I mean, it really, the roots of her ability are in my somewhat amateur love for learning about foraging and edible plants and how you can use plants. So, I'm passionate about learning about plants and how they grow and what different properties they have. And over the years of learning about that, I kind of just started wondering, like, what if plants had different personalities and what would it look like for someone to have an ability to talk to plants? And Jayce is learning that plants don't always tell the truth, that they lie to her. So she has to decipher when plants talk to her what they're saying is true or if what they're saying is false, and what they can be used for, what their properties are, and all of that.
Okay. As the name suggests, there is a plague going on in the town, and her being an apothecary, it sounds like she's got a special mission to conduct for the town.
Yeah, so she's one of many apothecaries in the realm. She's certainly not the only one, but she's doing her part in her area of the capital of the realm and trying to fight the symptoms of the plague. Nobody's found a cure yet, but there are many people who have tried to put out false cures and essentially just profit off of the plague. So she's also fighting against those false cures and then still trying to discover a real cure for the plague. But since no one knows exactly how it's spread, then nobody's been able to discover that.
Right. And I did check your author page. It looks like you're working on a number of projects. Are these all going at once, or are these all completed and you're working on just this one?
I have one completed series right now. All the rest I'm working on simultaneously. I have ADHD and it keeps my brain happy to be working on multiple projects. If I get too bored, I tend to add another project in. So that's why I'm spread out through all these series. I write both urban and epic fantasy. So if you go back and look through, you'll see that mix in there. And this story was actually not part of my publishing plan for this year. I was going to be wrapping up several of my urban fantasy series, and then this story just downloaded in my brain and I had to write it. So here we are.
Right. And I did see also that you had a free novella available too for signing
Yes,
up. So I did go ahead and download that. And that one also is an urban fantasy.
that one is an urban fantasy. Yes, that one leads into my Shadowed Minds series, which is currently 2 books long, and I'm writing the third one this summer.
Excellent. Do you have any advice for aspiring writers?
Be willing to try anything. and let go of preconceived notions. My journey to publication and my journey as an author has unfolded so much differently than I expected it to. And I'm glad that I let go of some things early on. I decided I wanted to be a published author when I was about 10. And I held on to that dream and went to college for it, and then decided that I didn't need college anymore. And I left college to write my books. And I'm super glad I did that. But I also had to let go of the idea that traditional publishing was the only way. And I had to learn about all these other options we have as writers to get our books out. And so even though my first two books were published by a small independent publisher, I got my rights back eventually, and I've been self-publishing ever since. So has been a journey. And so I'd say let go of some of those preconceived notions, try a little bit of everything. I would not be where I am if I hadn't tried self-publishing, if I hadn't tried Vella. This is my first Vella, and it won't be my last. So it's been a really interesting experiment for me to try out.
And what is it about the Vella format that you like?
Yeah, I really like it's easier to get more immediate feedback from your audience, because as you're posting episodes, you can sense their excitement, or if they're not excited, you kind of know you might need to tweak some things or work on your marketing. You can work for a shorter amount of time to get feedback more immediately, and instead of going through a whole novel and then having to wait for the feedback from your readers from that. And so I find that it really benefits me to hear back from my readers in that way. I found it very motivating also to keep writing. I tend to publish a fairly early draft in my Vella, and it works for me. I write a pretty clean draft, especially grammatically and proofreading wise. So I'm able to put that up on Vella pretty fast, and it kept me, I didn't feel as bogged down like in the middle of writing the story, because it was I just had to get out one episode. It wasn't this feeling of like this daunting task of getting out the whole book at once. So I really appreciated the format for that sense of like it was motivating and encouraging rather than like discouraging.
Right. And for this Vella, do you have a favorite quote from the story?
Yeah, I do. It comes from later on in the story, and the quote is, "I dare say he did not die alone. After all, you were there, were you not?" And this is another character talking to Jayce, who feels terrible because she tried to save someone's life in the story and didn't succeed. And so she was feeling just that guilt of, I couldn't save him. And so I just love how somebody came in and was like, no, you did everything you could and you were with him. And so you're not a coward, because she's going through this feeling of like, I am just a coward. And she's not like a kick awesome female main character like you're seeing a lot these days. She's very much plants and books and a little quieter, and just she doesn't have a lot of fighting skill or anything like that. And it was really fun to explore that unique side and to have a strong female character that wasn't necessarily strong in her battle prowess.
So. Sure. Yeah, definitely more relatable than perhaps a superhero, because we've all been in situations where we can only do what we can do and then just hope for the best.
Yeah, yeah.
What kind of challenges did you have to overcome to finish your episodes?
So initially, when I started the Plague King Chronicles, it was about 2 weeks before NaNoWriMo in November, the National Novel Writers Month. And I was not planning on participating, and I had not had the idea for the story yet. And then the idea for the story just kind of downloaded in my mind, and I couldn't shake it off. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to outline this. I'm going to see where it goes. Maybe I'll do NaNoWriMo. And so I ended up choosing to do that and participate. And so I wrote the first 50,000 words of this story in a single month. So first off, anyone who's even attempted NaNoWriMo knows that it is it's a challenge. And I've done it actually 5 times now. And so I know I can do it, but it's also a struggle. I am a stay-at-home mom. I homeschool my kids, and I have 6 of them. So just anything that you're trying to fit in around a bunch of kids being in your house is absolutely a struggle. So I had to find the time to write several thousand words a day. And one thing I did to actually overcome that during the month of NaNoWriMo was I did a weighted word count at the beginning of the month. So I was writing 5,000 to 8,000 words in the first few days of the month. And then as the month progressed, I could write fewer and fewer words. So it was kind of opposite what most people do, where they kind of start off strong and peter off, but or stop, or they don't start right away and they get behind and then they have a ton to write at the end. And so it was a little bit opposite that, and it worked super well. So I'd really recommend, if anyone feels like they struggle with NaNoWriMo or getting those word counts, do a lot in the beginning, because you're very motivated and excited in the beginning. So it's a lot easier to do that. But then after NaNoWriMo was over, I was a little worried about maintaining my progress, because it was really obvious by the time I hit 50,000 words that this was going to be longer and that I'd need more time to write it. And you kind of lose momentum after writing that much for a whole month. And so I just had to set aside time in my schedule. And so what I did was I picked, I'm doing so many different things with so many different series and marketing as an indie author, and of course as a stay-at-home mom. And so what I had to do was I had to pick one thing I was going to do every day of my week. So one day was my Kindle Vella, well, 2 days were my Kindle Vella days. And on those days, I would be drafting, I'd be reading episodes, I'd be promoting. And then the other days, I was working on different projects or different, I was watching this course I'm taking, or I was doing some marketing and things like that on other books. So I found that focusing on one thing a day really helped me to not get spread myself too thin and lose out on precious writing time that I only had limited time for.
With such a full schedule, do you get a chance to do any traveling? And if so, what was your favorite place to go?
Oh, I get to travel occasionally, not as often as I'd like to. It's hard to take a bunch of kids everywhere, for instance. So, about once or twice a year, I get to go different places. But my favorite trip I've ever taken was when I was in college. I went to Great Britain on a study abroad. So I got to visit Ireland, England, Wales, Scotland on a 6-week trip, and it was phenomenal. And I miss it. It was beautiful out there, and actually inspired the first series that I ever got published. So that was a really neat experience.
All right. Do you have any pets at home as well?
Yeah, I do. I have 2 cats and a few chickens. I don't know if the chickens count as pets, but we have a few cats, and their names are Rain and Merlin, and they're brother sister, and they're so fluffy and cute.
How about the chickens? Do they have names, or are they just
They do. We only have 3 right now, though we hope to get more. My kids named them, so they are Blizzard, Fifi, and Honeypenny.
nice? Do they have personalities as well?
They really do. And it's kind of funny because you don't really think of chickens as having much to offer, but they're actually pretty sweet. And once they get comfortable with you, they'll follow you around, and definitely have personalities and kind of pick at each other. And so they're kind of like any other animal or pet that you might have. Just you have to learn their quirks and how they act, but they're very friendly for the most part.
All right. And did you want to talk about your previous professions? It sounds like writing is your current full-time profession. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say that motherhood is my full-time profession, because for sure I am in that stay-at-home mom trench right now. My kids are ages 10 down to 2, so they're all still little. And so that's my full-time job. I would say writing is currently a part-time job, so I'd like it to be a full-time job.
Sure.
I'd really like to retire my husband, and he can do the housework and I can write my books. That's the goal. In the past, I didn't have a lot of chance to get into a career before I decided to get married and have kids and be a writer, because I've been doing that for a really long time. But before that, I worked in bakeries, mostly as a make the cookies, frost the brownies, that kind of thing. And I was a secretary for a short amount of time at a retail shop, a little boutique shop. But my first love and only love has always been writing my books. So I haven't really had any other full-time jobs.
And Bree, what are your plans for Plague King Chronicles Vella when it's complete?
Yeah, so with Plague King Chronicles, I actually decided that I'm going to publish the whole trilogy in this Vella. I'm not going to mark the Vella complete, even though the first book is finished. So those 51 episodes that you'll see when you go check it out, that is book 1, and I'll be starting book 2 here shortly. But what I've done is I've decided to publish Plague King Chronicles book 1 as a book. It's called The Quill and the Vial, and it is currently available on Kickstarter. I decided to do a pre-launch on Kickstarter so that I could do all sorts of fun, like extra special goodies and merchandise and a really limited edition hardcover. So that Kickstarter is running. It only has a few days left. It's running until Tuesday morning, and it'll end at 7 a.m. Central Time. And so few more days to go check that out. It's doing extremely well, way
Great.
better than I ever thought it would.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you, Bree, for sharing your time and insight with us today. We hope you pick up Plague King Chronicles Vella on Amazon.com or Kindle to read the first 3 episodes for free, and then it's only pennies thereafter. You can support your favorite authors by clicking the follow button, leave ratings, reviews, because reviews are golden. There's a crown button to add to your weekly favorite. Give them a thumbs up, just as you can click the like button for this video and subscribe. Until next time, blessings be.